Hello again. Welcome back to another episode of the POMMcast. I am wrapping up this week of content that I've been creating based around some basic astrology concepts that I use regularly and I think are worth sharing. And we have been building up to the full moon, which is today, and part of what I do to celebrate the full moon is I like to create a ritual, and I take inspiration from the Celtic Tree Calendar and Celtic mythology, which I've been studying for a while now. And so I won't go into all of that because it's a lot. I actually have a ton of videos already talking about different points of the year and what a few of the different Celtic tree months mean and what they represent symbolically and what I've done for my rituals. And you can find those on my IGTV at Peace of Mind Makers. And there's also a lot of content posted on my website under the Peace of Mind Makers tab as well. So check those out if you're interested in learning more about that. But today, I just want to talk about the Holly Moon specifically because I think it kind of wraps up nicely some of the things I talked about earlier in the week. And so we talked about the birth chart, which is obviously like a wheel, and the lunar nodes, which are two opposing points on the ecliptic. And so the Holly moon is also known as the moon of polarity and the moon of encirclement. And I gotta be honest, I didn't really understand what that meant. Last year, when I was really diving into this for the first time, I just kind of said, okay, that's cool. I mean, I know what those words mean, but like, I wasn't really getting the full symbolic meaning and applying it to my own life. So now I have a few ideas that I want to share. And I also have a little bit of context from when I studied Yule back in December, and I also have a bunch of videos on that on my IGTV as well. And part of the Yule tale is this battle between the Oak King and the Holly King, and it represents the solstice, when the days start getting longer finally after getting shorter. So we actually just had the summer solstice and the days have been getting shorter. So that's why we just had the Oak moon as the last month in the Celtic Tree Calendar, right during that time of when the solstice is happening. And now that the solstice has already happened, we have the Holly moon to represent that shift. And I think it's obvious when you think about it as the solstices, because they're like two opposite times of the year. And it's not really that they're these fixed points, because we're always either moving away or toward one of them. And I think that's the main point I really want to make about polarity and encirclement, is when you have two opposing forces or two opposite perspectives, those points aren't actually fixed. Things are always shifting around this circle, if you want to imagine it like that. But that is what's actually happening. And even the Earth itself, the two poles of the Earth are not always in the same orientation because of the tilt of the axis and because we are spinning around in space at an ungodly speed. So nothing is ever really fixed where it's at. Things are always shifting and in flux, but there's always going to be an opposite force and perspective. It just helps to remember that everything is always in motion, and so it's best not to get too stuck on one thing being a certain way, because not only is there another side to that, but eventually they're going to be flipped. And that is what happens with the polarity around the Earth as well. And another point about that I want to make is that it doesn't just flip like a switch. There's constant shifting. And then eventually you look at one point in time and you realize the shift that has happened. But that's just because we see time as linear, and that's another topic for another day. But the purpose of making a point of polarity and encirclement during this time of year, it's not just to represent the Holly King and the Oak King and their eternal battle with each other. I think I'm at least taking it as now is the time to recognize what the shift is and that it is already happening. And you don't want to wait until the winter solstice, when you're in the dead of winter, to try to prepare and harvest. You're going to harvest what you can now based on what your future self may be in need of. So having the Holly moon right after the Oak moon is supposed to remind you of that time of year when the Holly King and the Oak King battle it up again, and we have that switch or that shift. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say about the Holly moon. I wanted to wrap this up and post it so that I can put this on some sort of podcast platform. So that is part of what I'm going to do to wrap up my own ritual, because I don't just do all the fun collecting knickknacks and lighting candles, although I do that and I have a lot of fun doing it. But then you actually have to lay out what your intentions are and get to work. You just have to know that the intention of what you're doing and being clear about your intentions is going to help the universe align you with the right path. But you need to actually be active in aligning yourself as well. So I hope that makes sense and is enlightening to whoever made it through this whole video. I really enjoy coming on here and just letting these thoughts come out and having them out into the world and not just bottled up in my brain. So I appreciate you guys for listening to me, and you can find me on social media or my website. Please do not hesitate if you would ever like a free reading, or if you just have any questions at all about any of these topics. Any suggestions for topics in the future are also welcome, so please do not hesitate. And yeah, thank you very much. I will see you guys next time.